So, hello, welcome to another episode of the Happiness Revolution, where I'm going to try to be brief, which I'm not particularly good at. I'm trying to do that. Let me remind everybody who's watching this episode, if it's their first time, these episodes are about making the world better by using wisdom, and what I try to point out in these videos that there are answers to all the big questions of the world, that the suffering that exists at the moment because of poverty and oppression and all these things, there are definitely solutions, and they are not actually that hard. We are very close yet very far from solving them. We're very close because the solutions are easy. We're very far because we don't want to accept them. But these solutions are not just theoretical ideas. These are ideas you can apply to yourself, and as you apply them to yourself, you very quickly realize the reality of the things I am saying. And these are not my ideas, these are age-old ideas from spiritual values that we've been taught, humanity has been taught throughout the ages, for thousands of years. Okay, so in my last video, in which I was answering questions from my brother on what is it called? Brainwashing by parents, religious parents. Is that harmful? Basically, what he's saying, and he's going through a bunch of points. But as I was talking, the video got cut off because the battery ran out. Before I continue, one thing I want to do that maybe I didn't make clear enough is that for me it's really important that if somebody asks me questions, that I don't try to brush them away or simply try to prove that I'm right and they're wrong, because I value people who are brave enough to make the question, who don't just brave enough but take the time and effort to ask questions, because there's a phrase, or whatever you call it, that I really like, and it goes like this. It says your critics are the ones who tell you that they care. It's when they're quiet that you have to worry. Because why do people criticize? It's because they're actually passionate enough about the subject to tell you that there's something wrong. Well, they care about the subject enough to tell you that you're wrong, or something like that. Okay, but when they go quiet, that means they're just giving up on you. So I value these questions that my brother is asking, so thank you very much. And I value them in different ways, because if I'm just talking to the camera, it's very easy to forget lots of very important points. But these questions, by asking them, my brother has highlighted very important common ideas that I think are very important to address, because part of this happiness revolution is understanding yourself and understanding the world in a better way, and getting rid of the confusion that stops us from making practical steps of making this world a better place. So let's try to continue being quick and to the point. I'm going to go back to some of his points, and I'm trying harder to make my brother's points clearer, because I don't want to brush them away. I want to do a better job than he is at explaining his point of view, okay, because that way I can answer the questions better. So what I want to say is that yes, there are lots of issues, religious leadership, because that's one of the things he was pointing out at, that there are religious leaders who aren't so good, and they cause problems. And yes, that's true. And there are people who, part of being part of a religious group, one of the problems with it is that you feel that you need to conform. So I'm going to try to answer these points very briefly. Yes, it's true and there are lots of religious people, so-called religious people, because they really do not follow religious ideas. They just follow, they pick and choose religious dogma, and they just like people to listen to them. Now, I could explain that, and that's not very helpful, because that just adds to the confusion. The point I'm trying to make is the ideas I'm offering to you will help you, right? So if you decide to throw the baby out with the bathwater, as it were, to give up on all these spiritual values just because there are a couple of idiots who don't behave and call themselves religious but basically aren't even following religious values, and you give up on those really good things, you're doing two things. You're harming yourself. I'm telling you these things because I care about you, yeah? And I believe you're harming yourself, and you are giving up on the world. You are giving into sort of apathy that says, you know what, I give up, there's too many idiots in the world, and we can't do it. And part of the struggle of the revolution is to look at the world and see these incredibly powerful people and see yourself like an ant in this world, powerless supposedly, and still believing that the world can change. Because until we start believing that, we're not going to make any difference, are we? And it's definitely possible, because as you follow this happiness path, which will make you a happier person, you will realize the true potential of humanity for happiness, and that the revolution is already happening. You become more aware of it, and more capable of listening to it, because people have seen the revolution and they've seen very different worlds to the worlds we live in. So for example, in London, I can show you a whole bunch of people who will come and meet you as if you're a long lost friend and talk to you, whereas the rest of London, you can't even make eye contact. People will see that, but if they don't have the honesty to follow that through, they can't really be part of that revolution. So that's that. So I accept there are massive issues, that's what I'm trying to say, but I'm telling you that this stuff is good for you, and don't give it up, please. Okay. It would, one of his points, continuing from last time, it would be much more preferable to admit that we do not really know anything with absolute certainty. That's totally true. That's part of spirituality, to as if you're being spiritual is actually a very risky thing. Spiritual values ask you to continuously risk all the stuff that's really important to you. All these spiritual leaders, these Buddhas and Prophet Muhammad and Jesus, they were very risky people. I mean, Buddha, for example, used to be a prince, and he gave up everything to achieve enlightenment. And religions generally ask you to do crazy stuff like that, but that's how you become free. Going back to his point, yes, I don't know everything, certainly do not know everything, but you become more and more aware of this truth and reality, and you're guided towards it, but it still feels very risky. So that's the nature of spirituality, and you must constantly be very humble and realize that you do not know everything, but at the same time, what I say to you is because I care, and whatever I am aware of, whatever makes sense to me, I'm obviously going to tell you. If I see right in front of you if I see you're about to be knocked over by a lorry, I'm not going to say maybe it's true that the lorry is there or not. If I see that, that's what I see, then I'm going to tell you that there is an impending disaster that you're going towards, and that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about real things as far as I can see the world, and there's so much evidence for me, so much evidence I can give to you. It's not just my perspective, that the world is facing lots of problems, and there are definitely solutions. environmental solutions, economic solutions to the world's problems, solutions to solving oppression, depression, which is another issue which I talked about already, but I will come back to. What I mean to say is there are personal issues and social issues and world issues and environmental issues, and they desperately need to be solved. And if I'm an honest person and if I care about the world, and part of this happiness ethos, this happiness ethos that I'm talking about, forces me to keep talking about these things. So whatever I know, sure, I don't know for sure that I'm entirely correct. Of course I'm not, but you don't know anything for sure either, if you're honest. So what are we going to do? You're going to do the best you can for the world. And I'm going to try to wrap up very quickly. We should encourage questionings of pre-existing beliefs. Yes, I agree. You're right. We should. And conforming is not part of being what's it called? Religious. Actually, that's a misunderstanding. Being honest to yourself is being part of religious and spiritual. I try to avoid the word religious because there's so many negative connotations to it now, so I like to use the word spiritual. Okay. Just because it's natural for parents to do what they think is best for their children doesn't mean it's right. Blah blah. Yes, we talked about that. I'm trying to keep the video short because I think I've answered those questions in the previous video. To finally summarize one of his last points, he said, imagine a utopian society where everyone lives in peace and happiness and blah blah blah, but there are still false beliefs. He says that doesn't solve. There's one thing being happy, there's one thing about seeking the truth, and I say they're not separate, they're interconnected. I'm saying the truth will free you, as it says. So truth is defined by happiness, so they're connected. Okay, so that situation that you're talking about, my brother, does not exist according to me. The solution to the problem is to be a candle in the dark. So he's criticizing some of the words I used in the last video. I'm making really weird faces because I'm desperately trying to be quick. I'm trying to do this all in 10 minutes, which I bet is already I've probably gone over that limit already. What I say is that I'm going to end the video now. It's a good way to end stuff, isn't it? My daughter's calling out. Can you hear that? Try to understand that we are trying to solve a problem. Let's not pick on tiny words. Being a candle in the dark means just a simple attitude, a positive attitude, that you are going to try to improve yourself, and being hopeful that you can pass on your good values, not in force, just pass on your good values. And really, if you're honest with yourself, that's not a bad thing. Let's not be too technical about this. Let's get real about this. Thank you for watching.